we need to address the problem of reliable power supply to the West Nile sub-region. We appreciate the contribution that West Nile makes to the economy, and that is why we need to move together. West Nile should not be left behind. We are here to perform our oversight function to see that we get to understand why for all these years since independence, for example, we have not been able to establish a reliable power supply to West Nile, but also most importantly, to connect West Nile to the national grid. So we are here making a number of assessments. We want to understand why there is erratic power supply. We want to see also the progress that government has made in getting West Nile connected to the grid.
At Nyagak, whereas that very line I've just described originates from Nyagak, there's another one that originates from Nyagak as well. So there are two lines coming out of Nyagak. So the second one goes from Nyagak and passes through Zombo, comes like this through Odia, Vura Odia, up to the substation here, the switching station here. So we have two lines from Nyagak. The outgoing line from here is the one that goes through Arua, continues to Maracha, Koboko, districts of Tereko, Madiokoro, and not yet in the service territory of Wenreko. Line extension works, to my estimation, have reached over 85% completion. So there's a plan to migrate those networks onto the Wenreko grid. And this will be facilitated through the government, by Rural Electrification program, the government through Rural Electrification program. And this, we are also directly in touch with them, and we are waiting for the handover process to take effect. That is the layout. Electromax will speak about their interconnectivity to that grid. Previously, before Electromax came in, Nyagak at 3.5 megawatts as a generation source was feeding that network that I've just described, which, as we later came to know, was the supply or the capacity of Nyagak was no longer sufficient to meet the demand. Because the demand could not be met, that limited resource had to be rationed to provide equitable supply to the rest of the service territory, like I've defined it. Now, as demand increases more than supply, also the number of hours you receive as a rationed consumer also dwindle. They did not have a good relationship, those two. So as demand kept increasing, the number of hours which people were receiving power was also dropping. And subsequently, Electromax came in 2019. The electricity mix here has two entities that need to be very clearly understood. You'll have the generation as an entity or a segment, and then the distribution entity. Those are separate entities. I've seen confusion in one or another. There's a tendency of mixing the two. So if you want to address the challenges we are facing in the region, please, let's separate the two entities and address the challenges of each segment. The issues surrounding the distribution segment, Mr. Chairman, I think my time is running up, but the issues surrounding the distribution segment are centered around, one, the design, technically. How is the network laid out? Is it laid out in a way to be able to support any form of risk or any form of failure from any source? If the answer is no, even if you increase generation and there's still a gap this side, you still want to enjoy the power. So our challenges, one, come from the design aspect of the distribution network. Two, the integrity of the infrastructure as it is. You know, it was inherited from UEB 2003, a small segment. So considerable work has also been done by the government of Uganda to do line extension within the service territory.
They have a challenge of design of distribution network, and he's saying they inherited it from UEB. Will manager be right, or will manager be procedure right to lie to this committee that they inherited network distribution from UEB when the previous UEB had very little coverage? The UEB we had will produce power from 7 p.m. in the evening up to 10 p.m. and the coverage was just the center of Arua municipality. When they now came in as Wenreko, they extended the network. The network that you now see that goes to Nebi, Paida, Koboko and everywhere in West Nile is by them. Now why is he shifting that blame on UEB? Is he proceeding well? Thank you very much, Chair.
Let's get clarification.
To Honorable Atima's submission. There was some existing infrastructure here that Wenreko inherited. There had to be something, otherwise it means there was no supply at all. That indeed was inherited by Wenreko. That's what I meant, that there was, it's part of the backbone. What we inherited still exists as a backbone. Otherwise we would have to tear it apart and then establish a new backbone altogether. So that was extended. Where I will also agree with him is that what existed before is nothing compared to what is there right now. Where we disagree is where he says that it is us who put the network up that we see in right now in the region. I insist again that information should be provided to people to understand how the electricity sector operates. The operator cannot be responsible for network expansion. The cost involved there would shoot the tariff to beyond unimaginable measures. So that's why we have Rural Electrification Agency. As it sounds, it's a body under the government for purposes of doing exactly that. Even Umeme does not construct lines.
But you are, when RECO means what?
West Nile Rural Electrification Company.
So what were you supposed to do?
To take power to the user is beyond the line. Power can be on the line, but you can't use it.
Can you define your scope and what your scope vis-a-vis REA's scope?
Yes. REA can construct a line to extend power to an area. Yeah? And then, when RECO is supposed to throw electrons onto that line to reach the user, if anything happens on that line after it has been handed over to Wenreko, then Wenreko has the responsibility of restoring that line and its integrity in its form. I don't know.
So,
yeah.
Let me get it clear. Did you expand the network backbone here in West Nile, or you did not? Oh, it was rare that did.
By mandate, the government of Uganda tasks Rural Electrification Agency now program to do that. There is no operator anywhere in this country that does line extension. Remember, no operator. It's not by law.
Just for clarification, yes. Since REA has the responsibility to expand the network, does that mean that at the moment you overstretched, you cannot handle? They have gone so much that what you have cannot fire the lines that they have given out?
No, not exactly. You see, the power consumed, yeah, doesn't have a bearing on the network. Power consumed is from gadgets. You can extend the network as far as you want, but as long as there are no gadgets at the end of that line demanding for that power, yeah, the networks, huge as they are, will still have no power on them. I don't know whether I'm making sense. I was mentioning that the distribution segment, like you have rightfully put it, Deputy Chairman, in the last 1 year, we have done considerable effort to clean it. I mentioned this, to make sure that power reaches the last user. These are the issues that you are asking in your last question you raised. What is it that you are doing to make sure power reaches the people? There are things that hang somewhere there in the middle that make it difficult for power to reach the user. Okay. Yeah, and one of them is just that perhaps I started from one which I should have we should have come last. I mentioned design, yeah, and we are doing a lot to change the design internally. No.
So, in other words, you
So
say the design that was done by REA was not of standard to enable you to distribute electricity to the people of West Nile.
Yeah, there should be an engagement between the Rural Electrification Program and Wenreko at design stage. Unfortunately, programs that come from Kampala, almost 80 to and above percent are done with the exclusion of the service operator.
So the designs are not talking to each other.
Yes. Let you understand.
The one of Electro
You are
and
leaving us
Electro.
so many gaps that we can't even proceed.
Doesn't it allow expansion? What is it? Doesn't it allow other people linking with the other system? What is it?
The design is that it does not provide redundancy. What I'm mentioning here is that how do you make sure people are receiving power all the time? Yeah? There can be a problem with one of the supply lines. Redundancy ensures that if this line has a problem, they supply from another line going through. This is done at design stage. If it doesn't exist within the design, all of you users on one line here, if it gets a problem, you will not have the power. Yet generation exists.
So in short, it doesn't allow any other user to connect onto it.
No.
Honorable members and colleagues.
Okay, let's have one.
1 minute.
Yes, if there's a fault on the line, let me use the language fault. Assuming we have a fault here, one line is off. That means from Arua up to Yumbe, they are going to be off. That's what he's saying. What he's saying, the design problem at the initial stage. For instance, if we had a ring, there's another alternative going to Yumbe. Assuming you have a problem here, Yumbe will still receive power, right? So what he's saying at the design stage of these lines.
No, don't, you guys, no, she's lying. She's lying. You cannot.
Let's use parliamentary
Okay,
language.
excuse me.
Let's use parliamentary language.
Because when they were bidding, they showed that they have the capacity to have the infrastructure to do that. That's what I'm telling you, it is a cooked information. Two, since 2003, the things were okay. So they are taking us to the past. Those are the general problems about designs and what is happening now that is making West Nile to be on tentacles. That's what we want. Don't take us to the design.
Thank you for that information. Further information from Honorable Tima, then Honorable Feta,
Thank you, Chair.
and then Honorable Kaya.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity.
Please now note and respond. Because you failed to present to us, we are now asking you questions. Note the questions and respond to them.
Chair, information I'm giving to you and the committee is where we have reached now, we came from somewhere.
Excuse me, he's still looking for paper.
It's okay. He will collect. Time is running. The manager of Wenreco and manager of Electromax appeared before the speaker in a speaker's boardroom. Chair, in that meeting, the manager presented inadequate information. The meeting with him and the manager of Electromax did not last for more than 3 minutes because they were giving inadequate information to the speaker. Speaker dismissed them. That is false information. Now, Chair,
why you are provoking so many questions.
Chair, now I am coming with a proposal. Will it not be procedure right to make these people speak under oath? Because they are lying to a committee of parliament. That's my proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Very soon.
That Electromax has been paid up to July for the services they are offering here. But they have put a request in writing for an advance payment. Now, Engineer Linga is not coming out clearly. If it is true that Electromax has fuel challenges, let him tell us. Two, the minister also told us they are now restructuring the agreement with the Electromax to remove the component of fuel because paying them lump sum has proved futile. Even when you pay them, they don't have money to run the generators. So he's speaking on behalf of the regulator. He's the one who entered into the agreement. Is there an arrangement to restructure the agreement to remove the component of fuel from Electromax? That is seen to be solving the problem. Because if we have an independent supplier, the consistency of flow of fuel here will be addressed. Is that correct? Can you clarify on those two issues?
So we need payment receipts for deemed energy, if any. We need performance reports as per the PPA submitted to ERA, Power Purchase Agreement. We need a request for permission to invest in the network, which you said you wrote to ERA on a number of occasions, and ERA's responses to your written letters. We need decommissioning reports for the heavy fuel oils. That is the previous plant. We need distribution coverage in 203, the sub-counties and the parishes that were covered at that time vis-a-vis the status as of today. We need figures or trends of demands from 2003 to date. We need cost of pole connection from Wenreko and the standards of those poles. Whether those poles that you supply are of the standards approved by ERA. We need any contracts between Wenreko and Electro because you are working together. There must have been. If it is not there, then we are going to understand the loopholes why you are not able to operate together. Maybe it is because
the agreement they based on to give them money. When they gave them money to buy fuel.
Yes.
So what was that agreement?
Yeah. Under what arrangements were you operating?
Under what arrangements?
And even for them to operate from this place.
Because you just can't operate from nowhere. You are two completely different entities. How come
you are together here?
We are going to get to the bottom of this matter, whether you have been flinching government. The two of you could be colluding. We need a feasibility study for Nyagak 1 and Nyagak 3. We need invoices for repairs for Nyagak 1 turbine and any payments made and the current status. And specifically, we want you to tell us whether those turbines were repaired in Katwe or in Nairobi. We need staffing of Wenreko. How many staff do you have? How many engineers you fired recently? The reasons for firing them, and how many are left and now working. Those ones are for Wenreko. Electro. We need a report on all deemed energy payments from 2019 to date and any pending payments, if any. We need a power purchase agreement between you and UETCL. We need a concession agreement between Wenreko and Electromax. You claim that there is nothing. We need dispatch forms for deemed energy from 2019 to date. We need what is this?
Plant availability forms.
Yeah, we need plant availability forms. Then we need the average generation profile in megawatts and the average hours per month from 2019 to date. We need average monthly consumption for the heavy fuel oils. And we need payments for the heavy fuel oils made and any pending payments. So those are the documents that we will come with.
Chairman, financial status explaining why they are so indebted.
Yes, that's another good one. We need your financial standing, whether you are still liquid or you are insolvent.
Yeah.
And whether you still have capacity to operate for this concession. For both of you.
Yeah.